Hey there, team. Coming to you today with a video about when it's your turn to be the team leader or the discussion leader. I set up the class to where I do the first three. That gives you a chance to kind of get active in the discussion boards. It gives you a chance to kind of look through a couple of examples of what I'm looking for. And at this point, as I'm recording this toward the end of the first week of class, the first team is coming up in just a couple of weeks, so it's about time for at least team number one to start thinking about what they want to do with their topic. I have assigned you to teams, and I have assigned your teams to particular weeks with particular topics. So let's talk through the process here so that there is no surprises. While I'm at it, I'm going to make sure that I've got my phone muted to where we don't have any distractions here, interruptions here. Get the hairs down in place. There we go. All right. Let me begin by sharing my screen and pulling up the instructions, and I'll talk through that, and then I will pull up the rubric so you'll have an idea of how things are going here. I think I'll even pull up a screenshot of what I do to find out how many of the discussion posts you've read. Hopefully you've looked at the video already about the discussions and the grading and seen the features that I want you to change in settings so that it marks them as read. And I'll show you a real-time snapshot here of one of the discussion boards, the introductory discussion board, and who has posted and who has read what, so you can see what it is that I'm looking at. I don't do that to embarrass anybody in particular. Some of you will have a real high number of messages read, and some undoubtedly a low number, but you'll at least be able to visualize what it is I'm talking about. So let me begin here by clicking on the right little things here to be able to share my screen. Share application, share to that. There we go. Once we've got the cascade here, we can go to our HRM topic summary. All right, so what we're doing for the discussion boards in spring of 21, as I said, each one of you has a designated week. In fact, I think you've got 2 weeks that you're designated to be the lead team, and that's one of the benefits, I guess, of being in a class with a whole lot of people, is that you don't have to do as much because it's harder to give everybody the same opportunity when there's a whole lot of people. That's why the teams are so big and why there's only a few teams. So what I want you to be looking at between now and when your week comes about is how I have set up the development of HR as I'm recording this next week, how I will have set up the strategy discussion, and the week after that, how I'll have set up the generations discussion. And what I want you to, as a team, to do is look at the topic that I've assigned you. It is a commonly practiced function of a good HR department. And I want you to go into SHRM. There are no guidelines on what you explore as long as it's related to that topic. And please keep in mind as you're developing your discussion that some of these topics can overlap a little bit. And try to make sure that you focus, looking at the list of topics that I've assigned in the syllabus. If you see that a topic that's coming up later on in the semester can kind of encroach a little bit on yours, try to steer yours towards a part of the topic that might not get covered in another discussion. And if it might get covered in another discussion, try to leave it for them. Otherwise, they may not have as much to talk about. But go out into SHRM and do a search on that topic. And begin as a group, individually within your group. I would say maybe take a day or two and try to find a couple of articles that you think are pretty good. And in some cases, you've actually got to go to page 2 or page 3 or page 4 to really find some good stuff. Once each of you have found a couple of articles you like, then share those articles with each other, read each other's articles, and see as a group if you can agree on maybe 3 of them, perhaps 4, maybe in worst case scenarios 5, but at least 3 articles to get the rest of the class started. Then I want you as individuals to sit back and think about what you've read in all of those articles and see if you can come up with a short summary paragraph of what this topic is all about. and why it's important. And then get together as a group, share your individual recaps, I guess, or overviews. In some classes, I call them talking points. In this class, I'm trying to use the concept of overviews and put together one good overview among the group that we all agree on. That this is the basics. It's not necessarily Article 1 talks about this and Article 2 talks about this, but those are ground level things. Get up into the clouds a little bit and look at all of them spread across the desk there, and what are the main ideas that kind of come through all of them related to training and development, relating to performance appraisals, whatever your topic is. At this point, you've kind of got two things handy. Number one, you've got the URL and the article title for at least 3 articles that came from SHRM. If you want to include something from forums or Newsweek or the New York Times or whatever, it doesn't count for grading purposes as one of the 3. It's an outside source. So at least 3 in SHRM, URLs and titles of articles. And then you've gotten, and you agree on those. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, but you agree on those. And then you've got a summary or an overview that everybody pretty much agrees on. Then, looking at that overview, as a group, kind of brainstorm what are 1 or 2, maybe 3 discussion questions that are pretty open-ended that might have different people having a different perspective on. For example, when we get to the one we talk about benefits, you wouldn't want to ask what are the best benefits to offer. There may be some variety in what people think are the best benefits to offer, but that's basically a checklist. You want to get more into the why of benefits or the how of benefits or the benefit of benefits or things like that. Good open-ended questions. And I want you as a group to see if you can come up with at least 1 good discussion question and maybe 2 or 3. The idea in the discussions, if you have 3, is that a fellow student will pick one of those to build an initial response around, and then they might reply to other students who have addressed either of the other 2. So generally speaking, if let's say you're in week number 4 and your discussion is that week, by the middle of week 3, I want somebody from your team to have emailed me your URLs for each of your articles, your titles for your articles, your overview for the topic, and your list of discussion question or questions. Only one of you has to email me that. At this point, you've done nothing with the Dropbox. One of you has emailed me all that stuff, and ideally by Wednesday, because that gives me time to look at it and ask some questions if I think there's any issues. If you give me 12 articles, I'm going to come back and say that's too many, cut down. If you don't give me good open-ended discussions, I may come back to you and say let's reword this or whatever. The longer you wait after Wednesday, the more your points will decline. So if you're doing the discussion in week 7, by the middle of week 6, I need to have all that information. One person email me that. All right, so as we look through this here, there's the overview there's the URL information, the title, there's the overview, a couple of short paragraphs, 5 or 6 bullet sentences, that kind of thing, and then discussion questions. So by Wednesday night, during the week before your week, email me all of that stuff. Links and titles, talking points or overview, discussion question or questions. And then that gets you set for the week. By Sunday morning, I will have loaded that out to the discussion board. Generally, I try to do that Friday or Saturday. That's why I like to have it a little bit early. On Sunday morning, when people log in, they'll be able to see the articles that you have submitted in a way that they can click on it and go straight to SHRM, just like you've got in weeks 1, 2, and 3 with development, strategy, and generations. They will be able to click on a link to your overview, and they'll be able to see your discussion questions, and they'll be able to think about those discussion questions. And they should go out, read those articles, think about the discussion question, and post a reply to one of those questions if there's more than one. Now, what do you do when it's during your week? You're in week number 5, and it is week number 5. We got your research done in week 4, and now it's your week. You won't be able to see what they've written until you've made a post. But I don't want you as the leadership. Now you're the experts because you've done the research. I don't want you posting a paragraph about one of your articles or one of your questions, what I want you to do as the leadership team member is to go out there on Sunday morning and say, hey, I'm on the leadership team this week and I'm looking forward to your discussion. Submit. That qualifies as a post and then allows you to see what else is out there. And I want you, generally speaking, to wait a day or so before you start getting into the posting. You still need to make a post on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Other than that, that one doesn't count. You need to, and you don't necessarily need to make an initial post Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Other than that, I'm on the leadership team thing. But you want to start making follow-ups on other people's posts, and the same rules apply for the discussion board points. You post something Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You post something perhaps Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. You post something Friday or Saturday. 3 posts, 4 posts during the week, whatever. But you want to interact with people, kind of like I've been doing in the week 1 discussion. I'll post, that's an interesting thought. Let's explore that and put a little bit of information there and maybe try to get a little bit more discussion around that topic. So as we're reading down this, normally in a week when you're not the leadership team, you're going to make at least 3 posts. But when you are the leadership team, I expect more out of you. So you want to make 6 or more posts, all of them on other people's posts. There may be it may be likely that during your week as a leadership team member, you don't make a big full paragraph initial post at all, unless you as a team want to see something happen in the discussion board and nobody else in the class is bringing that up on their own. Somewhere Wednesday or Thursday, you may, as a team leader member, go in there and create a post saying, hey, you know what, we've had some great discussion, but nobody's really gotten onto this yet, so let me introduce this to the discussion as a primary post. Monday or Tuesday, after your weekends. So your week number 5, in week 4, you've done your research. In week 5, you've led and been active in the discussion board. And in week 6, now you're thinking back on it. You're going to create a Word document, every one of you individually. Now is where you're going to use your assignment Dropbox. Each one of you individually is going to create me a file in the text submission box that has each of the URLs, each of the titles, the overview verbiage, the questions that you asked. Then you're going to have a 4th part. That's parts 1, 2, and 3, titles and so forth, overview, and number 3 is the questions. Section number 4 is going to have a little bit here about what you learned in the course of researching this and interacting with people. Number 2, if the boss were to say, talk to me about this performance appraisal thing, is this something we really need to do? What would you say, right? If this was important, whether we're doing it properly, what would you say about that? And then what might we do to make it better? What are some thoughts that you've had during the week? And then the 5th part, final part, give me the name of everybody in your team, including yourself, and tell me what you think they contributed to the process. And if this is where, if somebody didn't really do their fair share, and I hear that from several team members, then I can adjust their points a little bit so they don't get as many points on this as you did by doing everything that you're supposed to. I'm saying here that you're not actually going to put this in the text submission box. You're actually going to attach a file to the Dropbox. So let's do it that way. So the week before, you're researching. The week of, you're leading discussion. And the week after, you're summarizing what you learned. All right, let me close that and stop sharing at this point. Go back to my screen here. All right, what I want to do, the second part of this video, is to show you the grading rubric so that you can get all of the points that you want to. So we're going to go back and we're going to share screen again, right there, share, cascade. Here's our rubric. All right, does this add up right? I'm not sure this adds up right. 10, 20, 30, 48. Yeah, this is not the right numbers, but let me talk about, I'll get this corrected. Let me talk about the concept behind this. The overview really has to set the stage so that people who maybe haven't read the articles yet have a general idea of what this topic is all about. So I'm looking for a really good overview as opposed to a pretty good or a fair or a poor overview, where you give us the basics. It doesn't have to be super long. One good solid paragraph may tell us most of what we need to know about this topic. I need to have really good discussion questions. So y'all work on the wording and the specifics of the wording and what you're trying to get out of that. Be able to describe, perhaps. Yeah, look, there's lots of mistakes in here. These shouldn't be 5s; they should be 4s. All right, and that's a 0 out of 10. I got a lot of work to do on this. Think about the reason why you're asking this question, what you're trying to get to as a part of your discussion. All right. If you have at least 3 articles, you've gotten full credit on that. Shorter than 3, if you've got 5, you don't get extra credit. But if you have fewer than 3, you lose points. When you give it to me is a big piece of this, because I got to have time to look over it and get it loaded out there. And I may be going out of town on Friday afternoon, so having it and not coming back until midday Sunday, so having it before Friday is very helpful. The biggest things in this is how you interact with the discussion board. If you post 6 or more times, that meets my full expectations. When you're normally part of a class discussion but not leading it, we only expect about 90% to have been read. But when you're the leader, the higher expectation holds. You've got to read 97.5% to get full credit. And then your summary, all those 5 parts there, are very good. All right, let's end that. Let's go back to the big picture of Dr. Grimes, and let's share one more time and to go into the discussion board for the introductory discussion to let you see what it looks like on my end in terms of who's read different posts. So we're going to share screen one more time. When we get this thing going on here, we're going to come back here to this, and we're going to go here. We're in human resource management. I'm going to go to communication and discussions, and you can see here that as I record this thing, there are 2 that I haven't read. So there's a big blue bar here. This should look familiar from the settings video on discussions, and there are 2 discussions that I haven't read yet on this. I don't think that you have the access to do this as a student, but as a teacher, I can go in here and I can click this thing and I can view statistics. This is what I'm going to do to check to see how well you've participated. When I tell it to view statistics, look, I can see here right now that for the introductory discussion, there were 31 created posts that were like channels within the discussion or boards. There were 189 follow-up posts. So I would say 189 plus 31, that's 190. That's 220. 220 total posts in the introductory discussion board. And as I scroll down here, I can see where Ms. Burr read 199 out of 220. Ms. Boyd has read 213 out of 220. Ms. Condor has read 3 out of 220. This is where I'm going to come and get the number for the percentage. And I'm going to say 193 divided by 220 is what percent? Go back to my chart. If it's 97 or above and a half or above, you get full credit. And where does it fall in? So this is why it's important in that discussions video that you get it to where it eliminates those blue lines, because this is telling me that out of 220 posts, 217, Whitney did not get that blue line to go away, even if she read them. I'm going to hold you accountable for reading this stuff. So far, looking at this, Shadi has got 219 out of 220, so he's been very, very active so far. There's a lot of people that are approaching 200, and that's great. You need to make sure that you've been reading these things. All right, I think that's all that I have for now. The short version of all of this is that your responsibilities as a team lead group really falls over about 2.5 weeks. The full week ahead of time, you're researching, you're comparing notes, you're preparing the information that the rest of the class needs. The second week of that, you're actually leading the discussion, and I'm bumping in like you would in a normal week and putting a few thoughts here, but you're the one controlling it all. And then the half over week after that, you're giving me the recap of what happened. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, post to Ask Dr. Grimes. Otherwise, we will go ahead and look forward to the team number 1 when they do a discussion in week number 4. Bye for now.